I'd like to invite Tony Smith to come up, please, and have a few words with folks. I'm here because of Tony Smith, and I have great respect and admiration for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's give, yeah. Good morning, everybody. How you doing? Good. It's extraordinary work, I think, and I really get the opportunity to talk about some of the big picture pieces and why we even entered into this relationship. But I think really the root of this is connected to the building of healthy human relationships. And when you're sitting in those classrooms and the little babies are on the green carpet and you're seeing the relationship and the young people asking questions and making predictions, and that's what we should all be about, right? We're talking about college, career, and community ready. For me, about building that connectivity with each other and actually deepening that belonging to one another, that's essential. And we're trying to do it in every single classroom. I think this is one of those accelerators that we can actually see pretty quickly how young people build connection, see other relationships, start to do perspective taking. It's really powerful, right? And those of you that already have been doing this for a while, I think we have some folks who've done it for a couple of years, you see how it actually starts to influence not just your classroom, but up and down the corridor in the whole school. For me, this is part of a larger citywide effort, right? I think you cannot kind of interrupt long-term inequity, see changes in historical and community violence without changing an entire system. So when we kind of set about this, right, I'm only in my 4th year. Many of you have been educators in Oakland for many, many, many years, decades. So building on a history of connection, village centers, community school work, we said we would actually build out a full-service community school district to be a place of connectivity, of healing, and building a sense of not just a test score factory, but actually producing citizenry, to be in better and right relationship through a high-quality education. I mean, that's a pretty radical act, kind of moving to balanced literacy, balanced humanity approach to actually engaging deeply, saying we want our kids to have positive life experiences. A curriculum is a set of actions, a set of learning activities, a way of engaging, not a textbook. This is real time. When the baby's in there, you can't predict. You don't know exactly what's going to happen. It's real time learning, right? And I think what we've seen, and in particular relationship with Mary, like it's going to be unfolding. Are you open to how this unfolds? And I think we've generally kind of taken on a strategic plan that says we have some very high aspirations for how we would create schools that are centers of connectivity, centers of community, pretty deep, high quality instruction, deep connection to parents, families, caregivers, leaders, but that we would actually always center around the needs and well-being of children towards this end of a healthy, high quality public school system. This is part of that work, the restorative justice framework. So we're moving away from zero tolerance and discipline policies that are about exclusion, but about inclusion, healing, reparation, building capacity to actually sit with each other after there's been a moment of rupture in relationship to actually heal. And a lot of folks had some strong pushback when we were saying we're moving away from zero discipline. We're soft on the kids, soft on each other. In my experience, this has been some of the hardest work. When you watch young people have to take responsibility, apologize, the sitting with each other, the kind of discomfort in there, that's like the hard stuff. Rather than being excluded and then come back and you've missed a bunch and then you don't ever have to really re-engage. So this is about our work, I think, of building a deeper sense of connection and learning how to be in relationship. I mean, I don't think we've built, this is an interesting idea. You can't cry about corn and cabbage, and it depends on what you plant. I think for a long time we planted really the seeds of disruptive disengagement and a lack of belonging. I mean, we see the extraordinary violence in Oakland. We had more than 700 people shot in Oakland last year. I mean, we talk about the homicides, right, of 131, but more than 700 people were shot. We've had more than 25 people shot since last Friday. I mean, there's an extraordinary distance that we have from one another and a sense of how we can actually solve our issues. I think for me, it's about the classroom, about the schoolyard, about community. We are part of a role of reshaping the health and well-being of the city. And that's why this whole systemic approach about the way we've framed our whole approach, the health, the physical health, social, emotional health and well-being as an explicit part of our strategic plan. Of course, high quality instruction, creating equitable opportunities and being an opportunity infrastructure. But if we don't talk about the very deep personal learning and the empathy required to be in good relationship and actually teach it, it's one thing to talk about it and expect it, but to talk about executive function and how do you build the capacity for young people to develop their social filter, to actually strengthen the prefrontal cortex. There's so much work we can actually do that we need to be doing and be more explicit about in our instruction. This is one incredible vehicle to do that. So we have, I think, undertaken some pretty extraordinary work. And we're talking about it in a way that many other districts aren't. We're talking about being a high-quality public system, that the common good demands uncommonly good public systems. Very few people talk about it like that. School districts are about getting better test scores and making sure you have a high graduation rate. Yes, and making sure that the young people who are in our care are becoming more capable of understanding the other, understanding themselves, and having a deep, passionate purpose in their lives. I think this Roots of Empathy work is some of the best example of how to build that and start to see a trajectory and watch young people track that we grow, we change, we can predict, we can make assumptions, and we actually care about other people. So for me, in some ways, it's a really nice kind of microcosm of the larger transformation work I think we're engaged in, to see it in these classrooms. We'll never have Roots of Empathy in every school, in every classroom. I mean, it's just in terms of the scale, the babies, the timing, you can't do that. But to have examples and to build it out across the organization, to have a system that values these kinds of relationships and says over time that these are the ways we want to engage as educators. This is what our whole entire system is about. Yes, I want every one of our kids to be ready for college, career, and community, but there are some things we need to take responsibility for to make that more or less likely. I think this is a big part of making it more likely. I think that the other thing I would say is, as adults, we have to do some growing and changing and learning as well, right? And begin to observe ourselves and our actions when we are not taking the steps of building community in our schools. When we're tired, how are we leaning on each other? How are we actually having our schools as places of support for one another? We have at 17 clinics now in our middle and high schools. What's been surprising is not just the number of students that we're seeing, but the number of adults and families and actually staff that are stopping by and asking for some help. I mean, the immense stress that exists in Oakland, the traumatic stress that we're seeing in our young people, as adults, we're going to have to figure out how to take care of each other. And I think for me, as a system, I'm committed to actually creating the context for us to care for one another, increase the sense that we belong to one another, literally, and that we can serve our children and families in some different ways. That's massive hard work to change a whole system to do that. But unless we are doing it in the relationship of adult to adult, adult to children, and across our entire system, I don't think we can really transform the city into a much healthier and safer place. And I think, honestly, your work is making this a better place to be. And I think Roots of Empathy is a big part of that. So for me, it was an incredible opportunity to welcome, be in relationship with Mary and the program and to see it start to happen. So I'm really incredibly excited, totally supportive, and have tremendous respect for teachers who are opening their classrooms to this uncharted work. It is really, it's a testament to your care, to your leadership, and to your craft. You would say, let me open up and take the risk, but to create this opportunity for children and each other. So really, for me, just these connections to the larger system, to have a system that's committed to the health and well-being of the whole child and the whole family, about really going deeply inside of classrooms and creating schools where families and children are really deeply valued, and supporting you as educators to do that work. I mean, that's got to be what we're all about. And I just really want to appreciate and thank you. And I was going to take some questions. So thank you very much.